Naira, Ekal-nêbi, the Fallen Palace. Tier 2 and Tier 3 walkthrough.
Before getting to the final boss, you will have to fight Góramul Sai twice. The first time, he'll run off once he reaches 50% health. He poses hardly any threat this first time around. He can do a spear throw. Anyone struck by the attack will take a bit of damage. It should be easy enough to move out of. His last ability is Serpent Strike. Anyone standing in frontal of the boss will receive a wound that should be easy to dodge or cure. Once you meet Góramul Sai again, he will have new abilities. Just like the other bosses in this instance, this fight also has a specific effect: Madness. Madness tears up in various different ways, however. Unlike the other boss fights, you can only reset Madness by dying. The different tiers of Madness will provide you with either buffs or debuffs. Some tiers are better for some classes. Tier 1 gives you plus 15% melee critical chance, but also plus 15% miss chance. Tier 2 gives you plus 50% run speed, but you will also take times 1.3 more damage. Tier 3 makes you do times 1.25 more damage and increases your perceived threat by 100%. Tier 4 also makes you do times 1.25 more damage, but your skills will cost 100% more power. Tier 5 should be avoided. It gives you minus 50% run speed and makes you take 150% more damage. Tier 6 makes you a glass cannon. You will do times 1.5 more damage, you will heal 50% more, but you will have minus 25% less health. Tier 7 should be avoided. You will deal times 0.5 less damage, you will heal 50% less, and on top of that, you will receive 90% less healing. Madness is applied in different ways, some of which can be altogether avoided, and some of which are inevitable or possible to reduce. Corrupted Strike will apply one tier of Madness if you are hit by the initial attack. Anyone staying inside the purple cone will receive a poison. When you cleanse this poison, it will drop a puddle that lasts for 5 minutes. Make sure you cleanse this poison at the edges of the room to avoid filling the room with puddles. On Tier 3 difficulty, cleansing this poison within 5 meters of your group will also spread the poison to 2 other players. After about 15 seconds, Góramul will throw his first Spear of Corruption. Once you see him get in position to throw his spear, you have 3 seconds to get away from the corner of the room that he is facing. A purple cloud will appear in the chosen area, and then a large puddle will appear. It will continue to pull you for 10 seconds. Once the pulls stop, a small puddle will appear around the spear. If you are inside this puddle, you will receive a Tear of Madness. On Tier 3 difficulty, you also receive a poison effect similar to that of Corrupted Strike. You do not get a Tear of Madness from being inside the big puddle, only the small one. There are no real drawbacks to being in the big puddle, so long as you keep trying to escape. As melee, you of course won't be able to DPS, which could become an issue later if DPS isn't great. If you get caught, you can use movement speed buffs to try and escape. Make sure not to jump, as that will pull you further back. Throughout this first phase, spears will fly around in the room, indicated by the long red lines. If you are hit, you take a bit of damage and get knocked far away. Depending on your DPS, 2 to 3 animated armors will join the fight while you are killing Góramul. They aren't dangerous as long as they are correctly dealt with. The tank grabs aggro, be aware they can stun. When they begin their yellow induction, it's important that you interrupt them. Failing to do so will give everyone 1 Tear of Madness. You can also use this to your advantage to tier up your Madness buff quicker. That way, you start the second phase with a damage buff. Just make sure that you juggle your Madness tier intentionally. Mostly, these animated armors should die to AoE. Killing an animated armor will make a Shard of Reality spawn in his place. Pick one up when possible. You will need to use it to lock in your Madness. It basically makes you immune to any effect that might otherwise tear you up. There is no need to use the shard on the first phase. Wait until Thothril spawns and then lock in on the tier you desire. After 1 minute and 20 seconds, 4 images of Thothril spawn. These will not move. Likewise, they cannot be tanked. You might have aggro of them, but they still only have 1 attack they can perform, and this attack is random. The only thing you can temporarily do is apply debuffs to them. The goal is to find the image that has purple, glowing eyes. Killing this specific image will make all the other 3 disappear. If you are still fighting Góramul, drag him near the glowing image and AoE it down. Once Góramul is dead, you can focus the image if it has not yet been killed by AoE. They do a lot of damage, so it can be advantageous to get rid of them. If they are not yet dead by the time the second phase begins, they will automatically disappear. When Thothril spawns, make sure you do not stand in his frontal attacks. They do a significant amount of damage. Only the tank should be in front. You also should not be inside the purple circle that surrounds him. If you are inside, you will be cleaved by his damage. You can hit him just fine from outside of the circle. Force of Madness is a long, rectangle attack. Being hit by the attack makes you take a good chunk of damage, and at the same time, you will receive 2 tiers of madnesses. Fractured Reality spawns 3 puddles. Standing inside them makes you take a bit of damage over time. Stepping inside the puddle, however, will make a Shard of Reality spawn. Quickly stepping in and out will make sure you have enough Shards of Reality for everyone. If you are at your desired tier, make sure you use the shard and thereby lock in your madness tier. You will then be immune to any tiering up for 1 minute and 30 seconds. Make sure to pick up a new shard when your locked madness effect is about to expire and lock it in again. It is possible to overwrite your current effect. For tier 3, it's important to know that every time you use a Shard of Reality, you will also receive the Shock of Reality effect. This effect makes you take times 1.2 more damage the first time. The second time you lock in, you take times 1.4 more damage, and so on. This effect lasts 1 minute and 40 seconds, so you could let it expire before you use a new shard, as long as you pay attention to what abilities might be about to tier you up. If you struggle a lot to stay alive, this could be worth considering. After about 30 seconds of fighting Thothril, he will perform his first Pull of Madness. For Tier 2 difficulty, we ignore this mechanic and simply use a defensive cooldown before the induction finishes. However, for Tier 3 difficulty, we make sure to, very quickly, run to the edges of the room. Once the boss finishes his induction, 3 different puddles would spawn. They are named Pull of Madness Far, Pull of Madness Medium, and lastly, Pull of Madness Far. The Pull of Madness Far puddle fills up the entire room and cannot be avoided. The close and medium puddle can be avoided by walking away from the boss and going to the edges of the room. If you do not walk out of the close and medium puddle, you will take a lot of damage. Furthermore, the closer you are to the boss, the more tiers of madness you will tier up. If you are inside the closed puddle, you will tier up 3 tiers. The medium one gives you 2 tiers, and the far one only gives you 1 tier. Once Thothril finishes his induction, you will also receive a damage over time effect that lasts for 9 seconds. On Tier 3 difficulty, this ability also gives you a poison that needs to be cleansed, and preferably at the edges of the room, because once you cleanse, you drop a puddle a second later. This will prevent the room from filling up with puddles. 30 seconds after Góramul Sai dies, everyone receives a tier of madness. This repeats every 30 seconds until Thothril has been killed. That's all for now. Best of luck to you and your group.